Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray, and today we are doing our winter snowstorm project. We have Michael here working the cameras.
Hello.
And I'm so excited for this project because it is exploring and playing and being kind of messy, and then just a few brush strokes here and there, and then it comes together. Love it. We're gonna be doing this project in 4 steps. So our very first step is we're going to lightly sketch the placement of these things, but don't worry about it, you guys can do it. Step 2 is we are going to drop in our pigment powder and our paint to get different textures and to kind of get all this energy happening. Step 3 is we are going to put in our trees. And then step 4 is we're going to put in our cardinal. That's it.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. So the colors that we are using for this project, and I've already swatched them, so I'm going to use the same page here. We're not using these two. So we have Seasalt, which is a brand new paint color, and it's one of my favorites. It's like such a good desaturated blue, little hint of gray, little hint of green color. I love it so, so much. Our second color here is deep yellow. Our third color is black, and then we are using a silver blue pigment powder, dual tone pigment powder. And just so you know, when you first drop in the silver pigment powder, it's not going to do anything. But then you'll see here that as it dries, the blue comes out. And so it's one of those things that when you first put it in, you're gonna be like, what? And then as you keep on painting, you're gonna be like, oh, dang, this is cool, you know? So give it a minute before you decide. Okay, I have 4 paintbrushes. I have a round 2, round 6, round 12, and 1-inch wash. I have a pencil to lightly sketch. I do have a little bit of a scooper for my pigment powder. You were given 2 scoops, 1 for each pigment powder. Try and keep them separate just because the pigment powders are strong. So it's just easier to keep them separated from each other.
I touched that spoon on accident and my hands are gold.
Yeah,
So.
You can tell when I was painting these projects because my hands were all shiny. Okay, let us, I also have bleed-proof white. So have that with you too. And we are using the red gold pigment powder too for the bird. Okay. Oath. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me, I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun.
Thank you very much. Okay, so what we're trying to create here is this icicle winter forest. Think of Narnia. Think of you're walking down this road and there's all this canopy of trees and they're all covered in ice and it just snowed and the sun is kind of going in and out. So you have highlights and all this kind of stuff. This is the feeling that we're going for, okay? So I'm gonna take my pencil, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do I'm going to do a line going this way, and then a line above that going that way, and then what? So this is just a good placeholder for me to know where my trees are going to be placed, the trunk of the trees. And do you want me to do it darker so they can see it?
Probably a good idea. Don't do it darker at home. This is just for
This is so you guys can see it. Now you'll notice that these gaps, as they go, are getting closer together. Okay, so the distance between this one is shorter than this one is shorter, this one is shorter. And that is because things get closer together the farther away they become.
They compress. They compress,
thank you. And then just so you know, our painting is kind of going to inform us where to put the trees and the leaves of the trees and stuff. So this is just basic, very basic outlines. So then, I'm gonna have try and have a tree kind of coming out this way. And I'm just using the side of my pencil for this. Just let it be nice and rough. But remember, try and make this light because watercolor is transparent. So you will see it through. And then we have another tree kind of coming out here. And this is where we kind of want the cardinal to be. So I'm just gonna do a little branch to remind myself the cardinal's gonna be here. And then we have another tree. Now notice that as I add these trees, the trunks are getting skinnier, okay? And that is because things that get farther away get smaller, so our trunks are getting thinner. And if you wanna do more in between back here, don't feel like your trunks can only start on these lines. You have more room than that. Okay.
I always thought people who sketched with holding a pencil like that were so cool.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh.
Let me show how professional I am.
So envious.
So this is probably darker than it needs to be, but this is giving you a good idea of where these things can go. The other nice thing about sketching is you can then decide, you know what, I actually don't really like the placement of my trees or whatever, and you can erase and start again. For me, looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, this looks pretty cool, but this feels very high on my paper. Like I have a large gap between, like that's probably, I don't know, 2.5 inches. And so maybe I need to let my trunk start a little bit lower and let this move down here a little bit more. And then that feels a little bit better to me.
Cool.
I don't have an eraser, so we're just gonna go with it, okay?
Love it.
Okay. So now that I have a general idea of where trunks are going to be and where my cardinal is gonna be, I'm gonna move on to my painting portion. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet the entire thing using water, and then we're gonna add paint and the pigment powder and let that do all of the work, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna take my 1-inch wash and I'm just gonna wet the entire thing. Now, my pencil is going to smear because I painted really dark with it.
You drew really dark with it.
I drew really dark with it. A light, like a really light pencil sketch shouldn't really do anything. But I don't mind. I don't mind a pencil smear. I don't mind a pencil smark in my pencil. Pencil smark. A pencil mark in my painting. I don't care about that. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all.
Ain't no thing.
Okay. Nice and wet. Then you can use whatever brushes you want. You can start adding the sea salt. And I'm just kind of putting it here and there in my painting. The biggest thing that I want you to remember is I want to keep the middle here a little bit lighter value than everything that's going on out here, because our cardinal is going to be like a bright red in there. And so if the middle is a too dark blue, that red is not going to pop up as well. I'm going to take my scoop and I'm just going to start dropping in. So I scooped it and then I'm just tapping it with my finger, giving myself a little bit more control over where it goes. Now we did use pigment powder. See, I got a little in the middle, but I'm going to try really hard not to freak out about it. I'm just going to add more along the edges. Now we did use dual tone pigment powders once before, and we had a top the same as the liquid watercolors where you just kind of like squeeze it out. But I think it was a little bit harder to control how much came out. And so this way you kind of can like have it be heavy. Okay, you see how the blue is starting to pop out? Mm-hmm. Now to really make it pop out, you take water and kind of activate it. So I'm taking water or a damp brush and just kind of moving it around. Again, I'm staying mostly close to the edges of the paper and not totally working the middle. Now, one thing you want to be aware of is because we wet the entire paper and dropped in the pigment powder and are doing more water on top, we're getting a lot of water on our paper, and it's possible that we start to get peaks and valleys, and that's when your paper starts to warp. That's not a huge deal. The only problem is that in a valley, the water tends to settle because the paper is going like this. And if water settles there for a long time, you're going to get some blooms. So whenever you start to see that happening, you can just take your paper towel and just kind of like suck up the excess water.
What if, here's my $1 million idea.
Yeah.
What if you made like a painting table, like a heated painting table that blew hot air on the back of the painting all the time? And so like your paper would never really get soaked. It would always be drying. Would that be cool or no?
You know, that could be cool. I think it also would affect how because sometimes you want
That's true.
the paper to be wet.
That's true.
And I'm going to do another sprinkle here. This is one of those projects where like literally play. Just like drop it in and see what happens. I don't want you to feel like, how do I say this? You can't overwork this project, which is such a freedom because like sometimes you're like, oh no, I overworked this too much. This is one where you're just like, throw caution to the wind, let yourself overwork it, let yourself play. Don't limit yourself. And look at these textures.
Yeah, love it so much.
Look at the movement. It's so good. And then to kind of like help make this feel like more of a landscape, now I can kind of take my brush and wherever I did those like pencil lines of like landscapes, like the horizontal lines, you can start putting those in. Just do a swoop. And it's just going to smear that paint and the pigment just to give it that horizontal feel, which is going to make it feel like, oh, this is a ground. See, isn't that interesting how just putting some horizontal lines, we're like, okay, there's a ground in there that I can see now.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now I've been kind of avoiding the middle, and I'm just going to go into the middle with clean water because I want it to be a little bit blue. I don't want it to be totally white because that could distract from our painting as well. So I'm just doing like a really soft wash in there. And also, like, if you have salt, put some salt in there. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a new, I don't know, maybe you want to do like some white splatters for like snow or something like that. Like, play with it.
Start getting into multi-sensory art and sprinkle some garlic powder on there.
And then give it a taste. It's like a snack.
Snack
and
painting.
a painting. Don't do that. Kids, if you're watching this, don't do that. Don't try this at home.
You could put some like smelly stuff in your paint, like lavender or something. That'd be nice.
Oh, like essential oils?
Yeah, just like drip them in your paint. Huh?
Yeah. I
don't know how that would
I don't know if that would have an effect or not. Like, if it would affect the quality of the paint.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I mean, but like, worth a shot.
I mean, imagine if you had like a winter smelling like Christmas cinnamony.
Yeah,
painting.
What a cool idea. Or like you're trying to create a relaxing painting and give it to somebody who's stressed and you just be like, just smell this.
Yeah.
You put like lavender on there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is good. And look at all the different textures. Yours is going to look different than mine and the next person. And that's the beautiful thing. Now I do want to call out that this is where a valley is happening. Do you see that?
It all sunk in there.
So you can leave that. And let me show you what it will do. See how there's like this hard wash line right here?
Yep.
Right here too.
I like that.
So like, it's not bad. So I personally love a good bloom. I think it adds, especially to like an atmospheric painting like this. However, this is your painting. And so if you don't like that look, then you can go ahead and just like blot it up. See how like blotting it just lightens it? So it's up to you. Okay. And doing so great as you can't even see my pencil marks anymore. It's fabulous.
Yeah, they kind of really blended well.
So now we need to let this dry and then we will put in our tree. So I'm going to take my heated craft tool. My paper is dry. Now I do want to warn you that because we use so much water and because our paper started to buckle, even if you dry it, you're still going to have a little bit of wave to your paper. That's just going to make it tricky to do your branches. But I want to call out something that I've been noticing, which is how I've been painting trees is they've been very rigid, like very straight lines. But I've been looking at different trees and they're actually not super straight. Like branches actually wobble a lot. And so I think I was doing a disservice by trying to make them so structured and straight because like just go outside and look at different trees and you'll see all the movement that's in them actually. So the wave of our paper will actually kind of help us with that. So don't stress out. Now this is where we're going to paint in our trees and this is where we react to whatever happened to our painting. So wherever we see a lot of activity, like right here, look at right up here, I'm going to say, oh, that's the leaves part. That's like super branchy leaves part of my tree. So I don't have to paint a trunk over them. So we're going to kind of work around the very active parts of our painting and make it seem like that's part of a tree. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So for me, there's a lot of activity here and here. there, here and here. So then in my mind, I know I can paint branches into that, but I don't need to do the trunk or the branches all the way through. Now, for my tree, I'm going to take some of this powder and I'm going to scoop it onto my palette. And I'm going to cap that so I don't spill it. And I'm going to take my, you can do your round 12, you can do your round 6. I'm going to mix some water into that. And then I'm going to grab black too. And you might be like, why am I mixing the black with the pigment powder? The pigment powder is metallic, and so that metallic is going to move into the black and it's going to make it relate to the rest of the painting. If I were to do just flat black onto this, it would work, but it would feel really stark compared to the rest of the painting.
Like disjointed, would you say?
Yes. So because there was so much powder, and Michael, I think you asked this in one of the other tutorials of like, does it change the consistency? If there's a lot of powder, it's going to thicken the paint itself and make it feel a little bit grainy, but you should still be able to paint with it just fine. Okay, and this is like the part where we pretend like we have no fear and we just go for it. If you want to take a pencil and sketch it out first, you can, but I recommend just going for it sometimes. It's the best way to learn. It's like, throw caution to the wind and let's just like do it.
This is the time where you don't have to worry about any of that, because if it goes south, you just put a new piece of paper down.
Just a new piece of paper. I mean, we spent what, 15 minutes doing this?
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my trunk. And always paint less than you think you'll need, because you can always add more. As in like, okay, I'm going to do a trunk there, and then I'm going to lift it up. Okay. Then I'm going to like let it go into there. And I'm going to let this go up here. So this is like not perfect tree. This is me just like putting down the bones of it, and then I'll go back in and tighten it all up. Okay, that feels good. Okay. And then let's do another one here. This one's going to be thinner. And I do need my cardinal to come out. I actually might switch my cardinal to this side because I have this nice big white space over here. And so I think that's what I'll do.
I don't think you're allowed to deviate from. I'm
The
sorry.
art police saw what I was doing, was just like, no.
I have bad news. They're on their way as we speak.
Okay. Now, when we get to the farther away trees, I'm just going to add water to what's on my paintbrush and kind of mix that on the side of my palette here. So it's a lighter gray or black. And then I'm going to do my mid-ground trees. And so you can have them like come behind and middle. And remember, I'm just doing like the base of the trunks here just to place things, okay? And we'll do one here maybe. Now I'm gonna have a cardinal coming this way, so I don't want it to get too much in the way. Let's do one back here. And then go even lighter, one more swoop of water so it's a barely there gray. And if you want it, if it's like too black, you can go back and add more blue in, more of that pigment powder in, whatever you want. And then these ones are nice and thin. Okay. Now that I have the placement, general placement of my trees, I can go in with my round 6 and just tighten them up. And by tighten them up, I mean like pay attention to the thickness. Remember, it's okay if they get a little wobbly. You can see that my paper was still damp right here, so those colors bled a little bit. That's fine. I'm not going to stress about that. Remember, this is a no stress painting.
I think almost more important than the final product is the process in which you allow yourself to do it. Like,
Yeah.
getting in the mindset of no stress is just as important as the painting you make.
Yes. And sometimes it is literally like fake it till you make it. And I know that sounds so silly, but sometimes I have to just take a deep breath and say, I got this. I have the confidence. And you pretend like you do. And then you just like paint as if you have confidence.
I'm not stressed at all.
Okay, now when I get to the branches, this is where I'm going to switch to my 2 because I have a little bit more control over the width. Now the thing is with trees, the more central something is, the thicker it is. And then as it moves out, it gets thinner. Okay. So I
Okay.
started with my branch and then this is where I'm going to add the cardinal. So notice that I'm doing a line, but my line gets thinner as it moves out. Okay. That is still wet. Okay. So this is where I'm going to put my cardinal now. So that gives me kind of all this room down here to play. Now the base of this trunk feels kind of thick for the area that's kind of coming out. So I'm just going to thicken this a bit more. Okay. And then just remember, like, as you're painting like the mid-ground trees, the ones that are a lighter value, just make sure that as you add the branches and stuff that you're matching the values with whatever is already there. So I switched to like this lighter gray for the tree branches coming out of here.
I was going to mention it, but I always sound like a naysayer. Earlier in the painting, I was thinking, no way this turns out. And here we are.
And here we
Here we
are.
are. It's a forest.
And this is why I love these types of paintings because it really is how watercolor and the pigment powders are working. They do so much of the work for you, which is just fun. I love those types of paintings where like I basically like put it all down there, I react to it, do a few detail lines, and then it's just like done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this too, and just using the color that's already in like the tree trunks, I'm just going to smear it into the ground a little bit just to ground my trees. So that way it doesn't feel like they're just kind of floating. If you need to pick up paint because what you're trying to smear is not smearing, please feel free to. You absolutely can. Sometimes it's just easier to pull from what's there though. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my dryer and dry this part before I... So again, we're just adding branches on our trees. You can do as many or as little trees as you want. This is your painting. I am having them kind of go curved towards the middle though, because I want to really create this like canopy feeling. And remember to kind of like work around what's there if there are things to work around. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can add branches kind of curving in that doesn't match up with any trunks. I do things like that all the time. So don't forget these little kind of background trees here. And I'm thinking about, I still have a cardinal to add. So my mind keeps on wanting me to put branches in there, but I'm thinking, no, there's going to be a cardinal. So I'm not going to put branches there. Don't do it. And then don't forget over here too, like within the trees. Let's actually ground that one. And again, you can work around the blooms, energy. And let's say like, I don't know if this will work, but let's say I want to add a little extra movement right here. Let's see what it's like if I were to just like drop it in, do another layer.
Why not?
Why not? And I'm going to try this at home so then you guys can decide if it's something that you want to try. And I kind of love doing that because sometimes we have these ideas in our heads of like, oh, maybe I need to do this, but we've never done it before and we're really afraid we're going to mess up whatever it is that we've already done. And so if I can like guess what those things might be and just try it for you, then, and you guys can see the result, then you can decide, oh, yes, or oh, no. And I'm okay with doing that. I don't mind. I don't mind messing up my painting because I know that I'll paint again. You know?
I will rise up stronger.
It's just, I know it's not the only one. And I think that's sometimes what stops us from trying something is we feel like it's our one chance. If I mess up this one painting, then that shows that I'm not good at painting and that I need to give this up. Or like all of this kind of false narratives that we create. And for me, I'm just like, I know at this stage in my life and how much I love this, there is nothing that's going to stop me from painting, even a bad painting.
I had mentioned this earlier about, getting in the mindset of painting, about how that's just as important. But I think what you're saying is true because I don't paint regularly. So I have a special kind of anxiety when I paint that it needs to be good. That like, I don't ever get around to doing this, so this better be good or I'll be mad at myself. But if you give yourself and like know that like, oh, I'll just paint later today or I'll paint tomorrow or whatever, and you know that it's coming, who cares?
Yes.
You just try again.
Yes, exactly. It's like, yeah, we put these expectations to create something really amazing because we're like, we want to feel like it's worth it. But but like learning a skill, there's no guarantee that it will turn out amazing. And if you're learning, it's not going to turn out amazing because that's just what it means to be a beginner. And so just knowing like, that's why it's more important to fall in love with the process of it. Because if you fall in love with what it feels like to paint something, regardless of whether you like the painting or anybody else likes the painting, that's not what matters. If you enjoy the creation of it, the process of it, then nothing will get in your way. And you'll know that you can come back. And every time you come back, you improve. So like if your end goal is to paint a certain way, you'll get there as long as you fall in love with the process and just keep showing up for it.
Now that I'm older, I've also realized that you hold yourself, maybe it's movies or books or just like your aunt telling you that someone, you watch them, they're just a natural. And they just are so incredible at it. And you have those expectations for you that like, I want to just be able to pick this up and with no effort, paint like Van Gogh. Like I should be able to do that because whatever.
The expectation almost of what we've assumed it is like you have to be a prodigy.
Yeah.
Or it's not worth doing or else you just don't have that gift. But like, although those people exist, they're so rare. And we are really missing out on so much joy of creativity when we limit ourselves in that way.
I also found that in adulthood, I think the word prodigy means obsessed with practicing.
Oh, really?
I mean, not like technically, but just like,
okay.
like guitar again is my hobby. I love playing guitar. And like these kids who are 14 and just so much better than I could ever hope to be, you would consider them a prodigy. But I think they just play a lot, even though they're young. They just practice a lot for their age. And so like prodigy means obsessed with practicing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Those are our trees.
Incredibly beautiful.
We have this beautiful icy forest. And now we're going to add a red cardinal. Now know that the red cardinal is not something you have to add if you don't like it. Practice on a sheet. And if you're like, no, my cardinals are whack, I don't want to put this in a painting, don't put it in a painting. You can do an animal silhouette. You don't have to do anything. Like this can be a finished piece just right here.
An owl would be pretty.
An owl would be really pretty.
Also, I think your experiment worked. That bottom left little bunch of leaves looks great.
I think so too. I really like how that turned out. I did go back and lift a little bit of color out just right before I dried it. But besides that, I like it feels more active now. It feels like it's more of a presence where before it felt like I just kind of skipped an area in the painting. Okay, now we have a cardinal that we need to paint.
If you're not over Halloween yet, you could do the ghosts again.
Ghosts.
I'm just kidding.
Ghosts, that's right. or a bat.
Yeah, that's my big idea.
Okay. So I have a nice solid branch that this cardinal is going to be able to sit on. Now when I do my cardinal, do this. You basically are going to do an oval. And I think actually like the thinner the oval is, the more realistic it is. And then just a little tail coming out of it.
Can you lift that paper up a smidge? There you go. Perfect.
And like, I want you guys to play with this too. Because you'll see that there'll be like, oh, this makes sense. Where maybe it's an oval, but it kind of rounds, like the body is sitting a little bit more. So maybe it's more like
a pear
shape almost. Let's try that. And this is like what I do is I just kind of like play with different shapes of being like, okay, that kind of worked a little bit better. Like that feels a little bit more realistic. And then the bird head here. And remember, this is just scratch paper. So like, I think if I moved the tail over to this side, that would feel a little bit better. So like, again.
Up a little higher so we can see on the up close. There we go. Thank you. They're called cardinals because they're little hats. Did you know that? The feathers on their head?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're like a Catholic cardinal.
I didn't know that.
They have the hat.
Okay, that feels better. Now, one thing that I want you guys to know that what I have learned about doing like small little things like this is the less details, the better. Like lift your brush up. As in, if you were to do a solid circle and then a tail, like notice how like thick that feels. Or if you were to use more of the tip of the brush and have it be a bit more sketchy. What you're doing is you're allowing there to be like different values, giving a hint of form maybe, and like it's just going to feel a little bit more realistic. See how like solid that feels?
Yes.
Where this one, it's just like, okay, I can kind of tell that that's a bird. Where this one, you're like, not so sure. So like allow your paintbrush to lift up and just do lots of little strokes with there to be like white spaces in between.
The gestures let your brain fill in the spots.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it right here, right in this nice white spot. Kind of a roundish body here. The tail's coming out underneath. And then I got to do the little feather hat for what they're named after.
Cardinal. I thought that was kind of cute.
That is cute.
They got the big old hat.
And then I'm going to take black around the face here. And rinse your brush. And then if you have enough room to do a little beak. And then after you put it down, you can always like round some things out. There's my little cardinal. Just a little guy. Nothing too.
Handsome boy.
And that's our project.
Love it.
Isn't it fun? And I hope that you guys, actually, there's one more thing I want to do. Sorry. I want to take my bleed proof white and splatter white onto this as if fresh snow is falling. So I have bleed proof white. I'm going to take, you can use a 6 or a 12. I always like to do a test sprinkle on my palette just to see how big the marks are. That's good. And it just adds another element of movement. Just some white splatters, that's it. Now it's done.
It does add a lot, actually.
I know. And then
makes it way deeper feeling. And
you can even take some and like put a little bit on the ground. like a fresh splattering of snow is starting to pile up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can even really make it feel snowy and add some on the top of branches. Like the snow is just starting to pile up. You know that feeling of fresh snow just like barely starting to, yeah. So it's just fun. So play with this. This is one of those that I really want you to just like go for it, go crazy. Honestly, you can't overwork it. Do a million cardinals, do no cardinals, do a million layers of this pigment powder. Let yourself have fun, because no matter what, it's just going to be like fun and cool at the end. You know,
Yeah.
this is a very atmospheric feeling winter snowstorm painting. And I hope you guys have so much fun with it. I hope you feel comfortable trying something different than what I did. And most of all, I hope you remember the oath, that you were kind to yourself, that you didn't compare, and that you had fun. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much for painting with me. Michael, always a pleasure.
Anytime.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye.